Welcome back to the lineup. I'm LJ,
Mike.
and we have our first real estate guest, Steve Rivera from Team Rivera, Keller Williams, Points North. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it, and looking forward to getting into this.
Absolutely.
I'm excited too. I'm new to the real estate world here. It's a dangerous world out there, is it not?
It is, and you know what the past few years have taught us is staying on the course and not veering off that course, having that focus, and just like when you're playing baseball, right? Hand-eye coordination, you focus on that ball.
So let's say I'm going to become a real estate agent, time like this, we got the market, we got finances, we got everything. Scary time, first time buyer. What is it that I need to look to do? What am I looking for in a real estate agent that's going to get me past that?
Sure. Great question. Right?
Appreciate it.
We are, you have to surround yourself with the right people as a buyer and or a seller, especially in a market like this, right? This market is ever changing and it's moving at lightning speed at this point, right? So if you're someone who tag teams with the right professionals, right? Your right power team, real estate agent, mortgage broker, banker, right? Attorney, and I would even call it an accountant to keep you in line as well, right? And of course, a title company, right? So having those people in your corner that have been through so many different markets, ups and downs, and understand what this current market is bringing, that's what's going to help you get to your goal of home ownership.
Right, that makes sense.
Right?
All right, so you get me to be comfortable with you, right? I'm a first-time buyer. I think I need to put 20% down. What kind of suggestions do you have for those first-time buyers? Do we need to do all that?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I'm going to plug you right into my network, right? My database, right, that we've grown, myself and my team have grown over the past decade, is just a team of next level players, right, that can get creative in those times that are most needed, right? So I connect you with my mortgage team. My mortgage team is going to sit you down. They're not going to give you that regular approach. They're going to give you that custom tailored approach for your situation, right, and your goals. Because LJ, your situation and your goals are completely different than yours, Mike, right?
No doubt.
You know, and as they are as, you know, Joe Smith that's coming in off the street, right? So we have to take that open-minded approach with every single one of our customers and clients. Otherwise, it's just going to be that one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't work, right? And we've learned it over and over and over again that you don't have to put down 20%. Right? I have some clients that put down 0%.
I've seen the TikToks. I
Zero.
want to learn it.
Wow.
And it's real, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't know how to articulate
Right.
it and get you to that point, but of course, it exists.
Can you give us an example of what a 0% down, what
Sure.
all that would entail?
Sure, man. I mean, again, getting creative. There's something called a seller's concession, right, on the real estate side. And our values are in a place where we're not seeing too much of an issue with appraisals, right? And if you do get the right deal and you do have the right people in your corner to help you negotiate that seller's concession to help you cover that 3% down, that 3.5% down, those closing costs that some people just can't come to the table with, right? And homeownership is that much closer for someone that has the right people in their corner than someone who maybe doesn't and isn't educated enough about those options and those opportunities.
Yeah, and you talked about, you know, the market. Well, everybody kind of understands how the market is right now. It's not great. But you talk about being creative and having that creativity. You know, what would be something as a real estate professional where you're staying creative in a market the way it is now?
Yeah, so I think it all starts with the approach and the relationships with other agents as well, right? If you're that type of agent that just goes in and is all about themselves, worried about getting their client's offer accepted, and isn't aware and open to what's in it for the seller, right? If you're on the buy side, right? You have to come from a place of contribution as well.
Absolutely.
Just like in any other aspect of business, if you're not coming from a place of contribution, why am I going to work with you, and why am I going to hear what you have to say if all I'm hearing is accept my buyer's offer, right? Is it price that, my buyer has to, come and meet that gap? Is it the terms, right? Is it our down payment, right? What is that parameter that's keeping us apart, right, from getting to that deal? And there's just so many ways to have those conversations on just such a friendly level, right? And a professional level at that matter, right? That you can dig a little bit deeper and understand what the seller truly wants, right? Because that's number one importance when the seller's selling their home, right?
Communication, just in general.
100%, right? And it's the same thing in every aspect of life and business. If you want a deep relationship with your wife, your children, your friends, and you communicate once a day on a very surface level, how do you expect to get to that next level and deepen those relationships?
Makes sense.
I've heard that.
Yeah. And how does that, I know that relates a lot to you guys in the baseball world as well, right? But how did you guys transition, right, from the baseball world into the real estate world, right, with keeping those relationships, the important relationships, right?
Yeah, we had to start over. We had to start over.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about this earlier, being in season and having relationships with your teammates, basically 24/7, every single day for about 6-7 months straight. And then when the off season comes around, everyone goes back to their families and they have to, mend those relationships, strengthen those for the few months that they're home, get all those things in order. And when it comes to staying in touch and keeping that consistency going with your teammates during season, there's a gap. There's months where you don't talk to anybody, and then you show up to spring training and it's like you saw each other yesterday. And transitioning, back to your question, into the real world, into the business world, coming from that background, we didn't really stay on top of staying in touch with people and keeping that consistent touch, and connections with everybody. And in business, it's important, staying in mind, so.
How do you stay top of mind now? I mean, that's how does that transition for you, Mike? I mean, because I think that staying top of mind in my business and the success that we have, right, that's one of the most important things, is staying top of mind and also providing value to the right people, right? And, at the right cost, right?
Yeah, I think it's I do a lot of research on who I'm working with. So like what you're saying is I get to know anything from, do they have kids playing baseball? Like, I need to know all this stuff because eventually, if I'm showing true, like if I'm really want to get to know these people, I want to help, that's generally what I want to do. I know what's important in their lives. Kids, family, whatever it's going to be. I know when their kid's birthday is going to, you gotta be different. I feel like to be successful outside of baseball, even to be in baseball, we had to be different. There's not many people to do it. So it's not like we pick up a bat and go to practice and that's it. We got to find ways of figuring out a new technique, whatever it's going to be. So I think there's always things that we're learning right now on how to be different, how to be in people's eyes, and how to bring more value. That's what we personally try to do.
Yeah, building rapport, right?
Right. So what we were saying is how we're trying, like, what do you do right now to be different, stand out, give your clients as much as you can?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's staying top of mind, right?
Right.
How do we stay top of mind? And it's a daily, weekly, monthly conversation with myself and my team, right? Because it's all about the brand, right?
Of course.
If you don't have your personal brand, right, and your branding tied to the business, right? How are you going to set yourself aside from someone else, right? And you just said it right before. In the baseball world, you guys are trying to set yourself apart from everyone and their mother that are playing in the minors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing in the majors, right? It's this exact same thing in business, and it's building that personal brand, right? Aaron Judge, he has a hell of a personal brand,
No doubt.
right? You know, Bryce Harper, hell of a personal brand, right? And you just look at those guys and look what they've been able to do and build, right? Just based on them personally, which brings them millions and millions and millions of dollars of endorsements, right? So we have the same approach in business, right? In the real estate world, and it's just at a little bit of a smaller scale, right? But at the end of the day, you know, a couple things that we do on a daily basis is we have a time frame and we time block, you know, X amount of time throughout our day to contact new leads, to follow up with current and past clients, right? And be able to continue that rapport and that top of mind, right, aspect within our business. Because at the end of the day, when when Joe Smith is ready to buy the next investment property, I've been staying in contact with them and adding value to him via social media videos, right? Via email content, right? No matter what that is, I'm always trying to figure out what his needs are as an investor, right? So creating that consistency is so key. And you can't just do it every so often. You have to keep it consistent, right? And there's a certain science behind it all, right?
Yeah.
And we touch people anywhere from 30 to 40 times throughout the year with different methods of contact, right? Just to make sure that we are staying top of mind.
It's funny because I'm thinking about the company I work for, startup. We want to keep bringing in clients, right? But we also want to make sure our clients are doing well. There's always the time frame. It's always a happy medium of what do I put too much time to, and I gotta make sure that they're doing well. But I also need to reach. You have to like shift.
Sure.
And that's where I struggle with sometimes on wanting to give these guys more help, because if I'm not giving them what they need, they're not going to be signing up for more. They're not going to be building a relationship with me. So it's always that fine line for me. It's interesting.
Yeah, and also
There's no right answer, I don't think.
No, and there's a big differentiating factor between major leagues and minor leagues is consistency in itself. Major leaguers are doing things 9 times out of 10 more than minor leaguers are. And as an athlete, training for a long time, structure and routine basically breeds consistency.
Sure.
In the business world, my question would be, how do you structure your routine to where you're constantly staying on top of mind, like you're saying, but you're also being efficient with what you're doing and who you're reaching out to? And
we talked about it before, right? The week starts on Sunday, not Monday, right?
It's huge.
There's so many people, business owners, employees, whoever they are, right, that are starting their week on Monday, and they're already 10 steps behind the guy that starts on Sunday and preps their entire week and month, right? So I go back to my calendar, my entire May is already structured, right? It's already structured. And it starts on Sunday, right? So this is a perfect month because the last day of the month fell on a Sunday yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So it worked out perfect for us to be able to, hey, we're going to make sure we're still doing business on Sunday, right? Because real estate doesn't sleep, right? So we're still doing business. We're still running open houses. We're still making offers, right? We're still creating that consistent activities that are going to move the needle. But you also have to work on the business, not just consistently in the business, right?
I like that.
So for us, it starts on Sunday, right? And then it starts in the morning, right? So my morning routine and my team's morning routine is going to be better than I would say, 90%, let's call it 99% of people out there, right? Because we are consistent. We wake up, try to wake up at the same time every single day, right? Of course, there's things that, curveballs that are thrown your way, right? Where sometimes that doesn't happen perfectly. But as long as you're staying consistent and as long as you're doing that, 6 out of 7 days a week, and you're doing that every single day, it truly helps you to build massive, just like compound interest, right? It's a compound effect, right? So, you're waking up every day at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and you're at the gym by 5:30. You're light years ahead of 99% of people out there, right? So you're that 1%er. So our consistency and our morning routine is what puts me, right? Gives me that edge, right? And it's super important for me to stay consistent with that on a daily basis.
I like that.
Because you're not just doing real estate, you're doing investing as well.
Absolutely.
So you add another tier to whatever that's going to be.
Yeah, and I run, probably at this point 5 to 10 companies, right, at a time, right? So the investment side of the business isn't always your passive income. Yeah, of course, we make it as passive as possible, and we create as much automation as possible so that we're not sitting there, for 5, 6, 7 hours a day running our investments, right? And looking to acquire new properties, right? That's why in anything you do, right, in the business world, especially in real estate, is a team game, right? You have to have people that you're able to leverage because you're able to leverage your people, your time, your money, right? And without that leverage, how do you expect to get to that next level? And you understand what I'm saying? And so it really creates that 1 + 2 = 5, right? So me partnering with my partners on the acquisition side of our investment business, right, puts us, that much further ahead than the guy that's sitting there for 7 hours a day by himself trying to make it all happen.
Yep, I like that because each of you have, different pieces to the puzzle that you're putting together, different added values that you bring to the table that can speed up the entire process and make it even smoother.
Yep, and you want to find someone that can complement your strengths and your weaknesses, right?
Absolutely.
You get in with someone that has the exact same strengths and weaknesses, right? It's not going to be as powerful if you're partnered with someone who has a completely different, way of working and a little bit of a different mindset, right? They're able to cover your blind spots.
No doubt.
But that takes a long time to get where you're at, right? It takes years of doing over and over, having that repetition, consistency. When you first started, did you envision yourself getting to a situation where you want to continue to build?
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
saw it.
And it's all about the focus and the vision, right? If you don't have a game plan, it comes back to sports, right? Almost every single time, right? If you don't have a game plan, right, and you're not studying your competition, how do you expect to beat them and get to the next level, right?
Yep.
So it starts there, and then it starts with surrounding yourself with the right people. When I had started in this business, I had no connections, right? I had no resources. I was green as anything. I had no knowledge. So I went out there and I learned from those who had what I wanted, right?
That was gonna be my
Were
next
they
question.
were they like?
I was gonna ask you,
Follow me?
just getting started in real estate. Anyone that's watching this, that's interested in getting into real estate, how can they kind of skip the growing pains, so to speak, and create a process where they're able to generate business within the first few months of being a real estate agent.
And you're never going to completely skip the growing pains. Doesn't exist, right? And if you expect that, then go into another career because there's always growing pains. But to that point, right? Creating an atmosphere and an ecosystem where you can get from point A to point B 10 times faster, right, by surrounding
Right.
yourself with the right people is a different story, right? You're still going to have those growing pains, but if you can learn from someone else's mistakes, right, and not make that same mistake that they made that cost them
That's
Yeah.
key.
10, 20, $30,000 up front, right? You're already a step ahead of the game. So if you can connect with those types of people that, again, are in the position where you want to get to,
Yeah.
right? It's almost like a cheat code in a
Yeah,
sense.
you're surrounding
Yeah.
yourself around people doing what you're aspiring to do, basically.
Absolutely.
But like when you came in, you're meeting these real estate agents, you're trying to connect with them, trying to see where they're going, all that. Or there are a couple that are like, I don't really want to give them all my knowledge. Or is real estate like, come with me, let's do this, let's learn from this. This is what I do for here. That is it open book or no?
And that's a great question. You know, coming into the industry, you got people that are a complete open book and a complete closed book, right? And then you got people that are somewhere in between. And listen, I don't expect you at, doing, let's call it, $50 million, $100 million in volume as a real estate professional, as a real estate agent and running a successful team to give me every single one of your secrets, right? Without
Of course,
me
yeah.
providing value
No doubt.
to you up front, right? So the biggest thing for me was locking arms with those people that were successful, right? And again, there's going to be some that are more willing, regardless of how much value you provide them, to give you those types of secrets, right? But finding the people that are willing to, if in fact you're providing enough value to them, right? It's a two-way street,
Yep.
right? It's definitely a two-way street. And as long as you can understand that and realize that in the beginning, you have so much sweat equity to give, right? Don't let that aspect of the business scare you away, because you have time, right? When you're younger, you have the energy.
Yep.
Pour into that. How can I help? How can I go out there and go to 10 different networking events a week, right? How can I talk to the right people? How can I start introducing myself and putting myself in front of more and more people and saying and doing the right things?
I like that.
That's
Right?
so smart, yeah.
Yeah, and everything we're talking about sounds like a combination of a few things. Staying on top of mind, being consistent and creating that structured routine that's going to breed consistency. Structured routine and consistency, staying on top of mind, surrounding yourself by like-minded, successful individuals, and creating added value. So when you put all that together, it's almost like the ecosystem that you were talking about.
Exactly.
Where it's just keeping the momentum towards the success that you're achieving or trying to achieve.
Sure.
Yeah, so I would say, everything that we're talking about is a combination of that. And, if you are starting out, for the first time in real estate, or you're interested in it, maybe that would be something that would help with the growing pains if you're coming in prepared in different aspects.
Yeah. If you're willing and able to provide your time, right, and go out there, make the calls, meet the people, right, and just go out there and swing some hammers, right, for lack of a better term, right? So being that guy that's just willing to say yes in the beginning, or gal for that matter, is so important, right? Because you're going to want to find what works best for you.
Yeah.
When I had gotten started in the industry, I was confused. I knew I wanted to be in real estate. I just didn't know where I wanted to go, because there's so many different
common.
angles, right?
I
And
know.
there's so many different paths that you can take, right? That it had me overwhelmed, right?
So, and it's almost like you figure out your strengths and then play to your strengths. So
Yep.
whatever your strengths would be in whichever area or path in real estate, figure that out first, basically.
Yeah, we double down, right?
Yeah.
You double down on those strengths, and similarly in sports, right? I mean,
Yep.
Mike, when coming from the majors, right? I'm sure you had strengths, right? And I'm sure you had coaches that would be able to that are able to kind of point you in the direction of those strengths if you're not necessarily aware of those, right? Would you double down on them, right? If you knew that those are your strengths and that's where you were seeing the most success.
It's the only thing I would double down on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit there and try to pitch 95 miles an hour if you never stepped on the mound and you knew you didn't have the arm for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I look at it like it's just like in a baseball career. I had to excel up. I hit something, right? You search for what it's going to be to get me back going up.
I mean, I look at it like if I'm a power hitter, why would I work on hitting singles the other way? You know, why wouldn't I work more on getting pitches I can drive in my zone specifically, as opposed to, you know, working on my cold zones? If I'm a power hitter, let's say my power zones are middle in, right? Why don't I work on pulling the ball the best way possible, knowing that once those mistakes are in my zone, I maximize the chances of me not missing that, as opposed to focusing on my cold zone so I can spread out my chart and be an all around, you know, hitter. But, you know, it's almost like you're working on your weaknesses more than your strengths. I would double down on my strengths is basically, you know, the comparison I'm giving as a baseball player.
But when you don't have the knowledge, I wonder if a lot of people are like that. Like, let's
You need
say
the knowledge.
I got into real estate. I'm just starting up. I would almost be fearful of what I don't know than what I kind of know. And I see myself, I want to get to. Is that wrong? Probably.
No,
but as a new guy, that's what I would feel like I would do.
Yeah,
and I feel like surrounding myself with good people would help me kind of. Let's go with what you are good at, and let's keep building from there.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think you still have to be aware of your blind spots, right?
Yeah.
You never want to just rely on someone else to take care of those blind spots and you not have the knowledge and not know what's going on there, right? So you have to know that. It's the same thing with, if you're not aware of, you know, what your strengths are within the strike zone and where you're able to, you know, where you're mashing these balls, right? How would you know, right?
Yeah.
How do you know what pitch you're mashing, right?
Information is power.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, the more mistakes that you make in business, the more you learn from and the more successful you are. Those who sit on the sidelines and don't ever try and make those mistakes are those that are going to sit there and say, what if I would have just went and tried out for that team? Or what if I would have tried to acquire that investment property?
Yep.
As long as you have enough information, data, and you surround yourself with the right people and you make an educated, right, decision, right, with your due diligence, right, with enough due diligence, then listen, I did everything I could. I checked all my boxes, you know, and if something happens, okay, I learned from it, right? But as long as you are, checking your blind spots and you understand, right, what those risks potentially are, right?
Yeah.
It's going to help you tremendously. If you fall on your face, it's not going to be this,
right,
you know, this huge sword to the heart, right? It's going to be a little thorn in your side, right? That you learn from.
Exactly. Yeah, you always learn from things like that and failure, and you got to try. You know, you got to put yourself out there, gather as much information as you can, and just apply that sweat equity.
Yep.
You know, everyone's got sweat equity to apply to something. So it's just figuring out what it is that you want to do that to, gain that information, come up with a game plan like we're talking about, and just go after it. Surround yourself with people like Steven.
I got one more quick question here, right? MLB draft's coming up in July. We got anywhere from 18-year-olds to 22-year-olds potentially coming into millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars. If I can go back in my time, one thing I always said I would do is invest in real estate. How do you get young kids who are just like, oh, I got this money, life is good, I'm going to be in the big leagues? Guess what? You're probably not. How do you get them to shift their mindset to being responsible and being able to make a good purchase that's going to be with them for a long time?
And plan ahead.
We talk about this, we've been through it, and we kick ourselves every day.
Yep.
We moved on from it, but we kick ourselves.
Sure.
You think about all the people in my life that'd be like, hey, real estate, I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm not going to be there.
You reach out to people like
I wish
Steven,
I was in the big.
and
That's what I'm
let
saying.
him advise you.
Well, listen.
That's what I'm saying.
At the end of the day, right, you look at where the market has taken us over this past, decade,
Right.
right? And even if you made the worst decision possible
You're still,
at that time,
You're still me.
you'd still be smiling today,
Yeah, 'cause
right?
that
So
fluctuates.
again, it goes back to taking the action versus sitting back
Yeah.
and not doing it because you're scared, right? And at the end of the day, again, it comes back to your team, right? If you had someone like myself in your corner at the time that you got your signing bonus and you were sitting on a couple $1 million, right? And you had no idea what to do with, right? And I was able to sit you down and educate you, right, on, hey, these are our options, right? Let's sit down and discuss, what this money could potentially do for you, rather than you sitting there and throwing it in a savings account, going out, to these big dinners, blowing a ton of money on a primary residence, right? When maybe you can cut back on the primary and invest a handful of it in multifamily or in a mobile home park, right? Storage units, right? There's just so many opportunities out there, single family rentals, right? Or even just throw it into a Delaware statutory trust that you can sit there and be a limited partner on, because you want nothing to do with it, right? You don't want any headaches, right? You don't want to be that landlord. So you throw it in a Delaware statutory trust where you're a limited partner, and now all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're collecting.
Money's working for you.
You're collecting checks on a quarterly basis for you now to say you're at, whether you make it to the big leagues or not, right? At least you're able to fall back on some sort of cushion that made you a consistent 10, 15, 20% on an annual basis.
And I think it's important too, when you're talking about young guys signing with these signing bonuses, you kind of evaluate, one, you're going to be on the road for 6 months traveling with housing provided for you. And then your primary residence after the season is only going to last for 3 or 4 months.
Sure.
So you might as well take a portion and see what that number might be, considering for each person is different, and invest in something like you're talking about, where over time, you're not, living in this residence or, spending most of your time out of a calendar year having that money work for you. And over time, when you're done playing baseball or you get to a point where you're signing a new contract and things are different, you can pivot. There's other things that you can get involved in as well.
Sure. Yeah. And real estate isn't necessarily the most liquid asset, right? But it's also not the most illiquid, right? You still have the opportunity to sit there and liquidate your money to put it into something else. Or if you needed some sort of emergency fund, you're able to leverage the property, right? There's just so many benefits.
I never had that knowledge back then.
Exactly.
Or it was given
and
to
the
me,
information
and
is
I didn't think about it. I'm not going to do real estate anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's getting them, the fact of the matter is those guys are going to have every single financial guy, every single real estate, they all go at them at the same time. It's how you approach them that gets them to be like, I trust you.
Yep.
Like if all these guys were coming at me like the financial guys, I had 8 meetings in the first week. I'm 21 years old. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm having this meeting. I don't know what's going on.
Yep. And would you think being proactive, let's say you were educated prior to coming into that position, would that have been a huge benefit and an aha for you?
Yeah, of course.
No doubt, because then you would have been able to understand how to handle the situation, right? Rather than, reacting, you could have responded, right?
I think that goes back to the point you're talking about, added value. You're coming at someone like Mike and you're providing information, something that they can use and have that value for themselves when they're assessing themselves and their money.
Yeah.
As opposed to everyone else that's coming at them saying, I can advise you with this, you should put your money here in this life insurance, you should invest in this, and everyone's got a piece of the pie. But the player understanding first is that added value. And then you can kind of ask those questions once you build trust.
Absolutely. It's all about trust.
Yeah.
So this has been really cool. There's been a lot of information that we've gone through. I feel like I'm a better man. I know you're a better man now. But I mean, I do want to, with all the stuff you got going on, what kind of listings do you have going on right now? Like what's in the works?
Yeah, so on the real estate side, handful of listings coming to market. One that actually just hit the market over in St. James, here on Long Island, 27 Sunny Road.
Beautiful.
In St. James. It's 3-bed, 2.5 bath, ranch style home
Nice.
on a park-like acre.
Wow.
It is a full football field. So talking about having a absolute monster catch, right? You're basically having a catch, like the outfielders having.
All right.
You know,
Long
you're having
long toss.
you're going long toss from the house to the
That's great.
backyard. I don't even know if you're reaching. We should probably test that.
Yeah,
actually.
we should.
Should we get you out there?
Yeah, we should.
All
We'll
right.
get Freddie out there with the drone.
I think we might be having another open house. So
There we go.
before the open house, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
But yeah, it's a hell of a property. You don't see these types of usable acres typically on the island, and every inch of this property is like completely, usable and
Awesome.
manufactured. It's
Would you say it's 65 yards? Because we'll get the video showing me throwing football 65
I'm
yards.
gonna say it's closer to 100 yards.
Okay.
So if you're throwing a football 100 yards, then
Yeah,
let's
okay,
do it.
that.
Let's do it. I mean, we just picked up Aaron Rodgers, but we might have to have a second thought here.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a Jeff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it.
Oh yeah.
And we'll have to continue this talk on the golf course like we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, we got
Listen,
more. We
I
need
told
more
you guys.
knowledge, man. You got to keep spitting that.
I told you. You let me know. Daytime course. I'm
Done.
there.
No,
Speaking of it, I do have a little something for you guys. We're talking about golf course here.
Okay.
One of my favorite stoves.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Oh,
One of my
nice.
favorite stoves to smoke on the golf course for you guys.
Oh man, it's
An
beautiful.
Oliva Melanio. Okay, this is a Grand Reserva Limited. One for both of you guys.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate this.
oh, baby.
And I do have one for me as well when
Good.
we're out on
So
the course.
we light up on hole one.
Oh, absolutely.
Hell
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
that's
can't
perfect.
guarantee it's going to last till 18.
That's fine. This is great.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
for
it.
Cigars.
Pleasure
Absolutely.
having you.
Thank you
Yes.
for coming on. And
Thanks
then,
for having me, guys.
Until next time, I'm LJ,
Mike.
and it's the lineup.
Peace.